Welcome to Future Left Podcast. I'm Adam Simpson, here with Casey Rogers. Casey.
What?
What's up, man? I don't know.
Not much. How you doing?
I just work here. No.
Do you? That's sad.
Sort of. I mean, it's not, productive capital type. No, I don't know what I'm doing. But anyway, what I wanted to say was what we're doing today is we're going to be talking about our robot petition. Guess what? We're at 400 supporters right now.
Holy shit.
I know. And I was actually really nervous because a few minutes ago we were at 399, and I was like, that's a stupid thing to say on a podcast. We're at 399 supporters. But someone came through.
We would have rounded it up.
I would have just lied.
Was it you?
People.
Were you the 400th, Adam?
No. It was a fake email address I came up with.
Kirby leg.
Just got to do that another 16,000 times.
It was Kirby leg.
And then we'll have a weird odd number to submit to Martha Raddatz. We're going to be talking about some of our supporter comments today on this petition. We've gotten a lot of feedback. Obviously, 400 people have supported this initiative, which I'm really, really happy about. We're going to have a big push next week to get a lot more media attention. You should all stay tuned for that. I did want to address, before we get into the user comments, we had an addendum to our petition that I'm just going to read it to you so we can get something out of the way. It reads as follows. Addendum, August 11. We want to be clear, Future Left views automation as ultimately representing tremendous positive potential for society and the economy. Cheaper goods as a result of abundance, more meaningful jobs, AI guiding policy to more precise solutions to problems. The list goes on. We simply want to make policymakers, we simply want policymakers to think through and prepare for what seem to be inevitable disruptions, be they temporary or permanent. Future Left is unabashedly pro-robot, but preparation and foresight is required for the positive dividends to be distributed broadly and for any negative consequences to be mitigated. And Casey, why did we have to add that?
Because everyone thinks that we hate automation, apparently. No,
Yeah.
we get a lot of comments where people are like, oh my God, why are y'all so worried about this? And it's not like we're not saying, oh my God, it's really bad.
Some people are confused about us being worried about it. I feel like these are the people that are like, yo, free market's going to just put its arm around this thing's neck and wrestle it into the ground or something.
Can't fight the market, bro.
Yeah, but no, the thing that that it really bothers me is people are like, oh, you want to stop technology from doing what technology do? And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that.
No, you didn't. You didn't read it. You didn't.
You didn't read the petition. But I just wanted to add that with a lot of random bold text to draw the eye and make it clear about what we're about. I look forward. The petition is just about getting it on the radar. If you fear robots, and you want the presidential candidates to be asked about robots because you fear them, you can join the petition again. But our objective is to get it on the agenda, and I want to know their responses. That's kind of the initiative.
Fearing robots is much different than fearing automation, I think.
Yeah, it's true. Like the Sam Waterston commercial from SNL. Robots stealing people's medicine. Pills. Sure. But with that, I think we can turn to some of our supporter comments that we picked out. Starting with, we have someone here by the name of, hold on. We have a Deanna Cook saying, I feel like my job could easily be done by robots by 2018. I assume that Deanna is a long-haul trucker. I don't know about you, Casey. We didn't get any information out of that. But no, thank you for your support,
that sense.
Deanna. We also got a comment about from Roberto Mazzarella from Yelm, Washington, who, and I quote, I'm signing this because the whole jobs concept is simply a glorified version of slavery. Now, it goes on, but let's just stop there.
Not comfortable with calling it slavery.
Yeah, because traditionally, slaves were not paid.
Right.
So I get the conception of wage slavery. I do think the market's very coercive, and I think that's where Roberto's going. But I do, just to drive further conversation about this whole thing. By the way, Roberto, if you hate what I just said, go ahead and leave me another comment. We'll mention it next week, and we'll talk in a really inefficient manner.
And by the way, he probably knows it's not literally slavery. I think he was just being hyperbolic.
Well, he says it's a glorified version of slavery. I don't know. But he says people working for someone else, living in cities to be near their place of work, getting little to no personal satisfaction that they have truly contributed something original to the culture, quote, jobs are inventions of oligarchs who consider all others but themselves as subservient slaves. Now, again, I view the market as kind of coercive in a sense that if you don't get some sort of job from someone, you're gonna get you're gonna go hungry. You're not gonna have food. So that is coercive. I'm not gonna deny that.
Right, but also as for jobs being the inventions of oligarchs, I think historically that's problematic because jobs are extensions of what was originally necessary labor, like survival labor that was codified, and then that led to industry. Yeah. So I know it wasn't. Sorry.
Eventually, it led to industry. No, that's fine. I don't mind. Let's get into that Marxist dialectic I keep trying to get you into.
But it now benefits oligarchs, so I understand.
Yeah. That's no doubt true. So, Roberto, thank you for your comment. Another comment we got was from Seth Lewis, computer science student, and he's concerned about the ethical ramifications of the industry. I believe automation is good. As we provide stable welfare for our citizens. This is a very long comment, so I'm going to skip down here. The true business of people should be to go back to school and think about whatever it was they were thinking about before somebody came along and told them they had to earn a living. I believe that automation can make this possible if and only if we change the way we think about how we provide for our citizens.
I mean, that's the ideal, right? It reminds me of ancient Greece, where artists were funded by the state. It was seen as a public good. That artists serve a function. Nowadays, I always hear people say, if you make college more affordable, you're just going to have people being art majors and music majors, because obviously these days art, because it's not seen as being lucrative, is inherently worthless.
Yeah. Casey, you want to take this next comment we picked out?
I do want to, as a matter of fact. This comment comes from Carl Peterson from Albuquerque, New Mexico. I think robotics manufacturers should pay a Social Security payment for each unit they manufacture, since the ultimate social cost will be the retirement of workers. Anything there, or let me keep going?
Yeah, no, this is fine. So what's interesting about this to me is the EU has actually considered such legislation. The EU being the European Union, not the sound that Casey makes while I speak. Or the sound that women say when they see my Tinder profile. Oh,
okay. I'm glad you went with Tinder profile.
Oh, you thought I was gonna say my thigh or something? I don't know. Anyway, no, I gotta talk about my thighs every episode, by the way. But anyway,
that's what the viewers want. That's what the listeners want. So.
Yeah. Anyway, go ahead, continue. You're
going to talk about the EU. You're going to talk about the EU and the taxes.
Yeah, the EU was wanting to set up it was always billed as like robots paying taxes was the headline, but it was a social security scheme because they're thinking that as people get displaced from the workplace, you're going to have fewer people paying into social security schemes, and people might be retired earlier. There are problems with that. So
until we eliminate the need for money. Automation, there's going to need to be some sort of financial compensation to go along with that.
Yeah. Let's keep reading. Yeah.
Okay. For imported robots, the same charge must apply. Since the cost of the robot plus the social charges will still be less than the hourly employee charge, the economics for robotic inflation will be reduced, but the windfall, corporate profits, will be redirected to address the social costs of the changeover later.
No, my thinking here is the reason I don't really align myself with the EU's thinking is that I don't want there to be any kind of undue burden on, like it says robotics manufacturers should pay a social security payment. I think that's off. I mean, we do have some strategies like trade adjustment assistance for when a given like factory goes overseas or something, or when goods get imported into the market and it screws things around, that we have strategies like that to kind of alleviate some of the stress from those economic disruptions. Right. But I would be opposed to a system that really goes after robotics manufacturers, but the people that utilize
they're doing what they do. I mean, it's the people who choose to use them in this place.
And the people that utilize robotics in their facilities to automate certain things or to further computerize certain jobs when people start adopting AI, I think that in that strategy, I don't know if I'd be on board in that sense. Now, there's a lot of thought I have on this, but I don't want to bog this down too much with the random things that shoot in my brain. But I'll just say that I worry that putting a cost like this on people who adopt robots or people that produce robots would slow down a trend that I don't know that is wise to try to slow down, and that I don't know that I want to slow down.
There's going to have to be a balance between not de-incentivizing progress and automation while at the same time compensating people who are suddenly going to be on the wrong side of our current economic system.
Right. So recently we've heard about Adidas bringing a factory to the United States, and there'd be more manufacturing, but the manufacturing is all going to be done by robots, unfortunately. So, like, in my mind, that doesn't mean that we should charge Adidas more money for the employees that we think they would have employed. But appropriate corporate taxes, stuff like that, is how we should address the issue. Not by, I don't know, how many robots you got in that building, and then like.
Right. Well, I guess no jobs are being lost in that situation.
I guess that's one way to look at it, but we won't go down that road right now. I'll take the next question. Next question is three related items. First one from Ahmet Toprak in Plano, Texas, just north of my hometown, Dallas,
where down the street from me.
Just down the street from Casey, because it's still his hometown. It's still my home. We're not going to get into that semantics. Plano. Ahmet Toprak says it may cause a recession. Similarly, James Cable from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, says that if employers want to employ robots, ask them if robots will buy their products and pay their taxes. Now, I think these are kind of rational ways of thinking about it, because if you think about it, if more automation leads to people being displaced from the workplace, they won't have the purchasing power to supply, I should avoid that word, but to kind of represent the demand in the economic system, because if they can't buy anything, then we're not going to have demand. It's going to screw up with the whole system. But I think that's a legitimate fear, and one that is often addressed by the question of basic income. And we do have a comment from Mr. Scott Santons, the basic income advocate, the guy that runs Reddit's r/basic income page. He says this is the robot question. This is the most important question, and the answer needs to be universal basic income. So this is one way people think about this is how you would kind of, perhaps artificially, for better or worse, sustain economic demand, so that people, even if they were out of work temporarily or perhaps medium term, they would be able to sustain themselves and still produce a little bit more demand into the economy.
I think this and automation, I think universal basic income and automation sort of need to be viewed as a package deal.
Yeah.
Because universal basic income is really the only way I can see to alleviate the massive shock to the economy that would come from wide-scale automation.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's true as well. I mean, I think I've talked with you about this, Casey. I think basic income is a really necessary part of a system where the kind of physical labor we have is less needed, and people don't have to do a job like bartending, serving, or kind of routine tasks like that, or kind of become more automated, or working.
It's weird how those are the jobs that would become automated before things like construction and excavation.
Yeah, I mean, well, those can be complex tasks, and they're not very routine. Like in a lot of cases, like you might have.
Like they're more repetitive. It seems like they're more repetitive than a job that a person does, like choosing what drinks to mix and things. But sorry.
That's like I've been a server. It's really taxing, but I will say it's not very complex. But anyway, Skynet can have that job. Take it from me.
Good.
But but I think that part of it has to be more, as Richard Wolff would say, economic democracy, meaning that more worker-controlled enterprises. And I think that's really one way to kind of program in resilience in certain industries, like before workers who are owners as well decide to add more automation to their system, they would do so knowing, first of all, that as co-owners, they're going to get more of the dividends, and they wouldn't do it too fast. They wouldn't displace themselves. There wouldn't be as much shock to the system. It'd be a very resilient model for.
So what are you saying about the means of production, Adam?
Well, I think you got to seize them.
Right.
I think you got to find them.
That's a good point, though, because in the traditional power structure, the workers aren't going to find out about the change to their job until they're being fired, replaced by a robot. If they were the ones making the decision, they could make sure that they facilitate that change and accommodate for it.
Yeah, well, we won't get into fully automated luxury communism, but we can talk about that on a future episode.
The name of a future episode.
It's the name of the book No, it's not. But anyway, Patrick Sunter wants to chime in from Brunswick, Australia. Hell yeah. Sorry, I don't know why hell yeah. Don't have to say that. But anyway,
fuck yeah.
Rapid automation and roboticization is an important issue, not just to Americans, but people and democracies all around the world. I definitely agree with that. Particularly what it means for the developing world is something I always kind of worry about. We have then the final one is that Barbara West of Oakland, California writes, I'm worried about the future of the middle class, and to me this really gets to the heart of why I'm drawn to this issue. It's about economic inequality, and it's about general working people being excluded from all of the gains that I think our economy and society can experience, but I don't want it to go just to people like Elon Musk or who like the owners of these big companies,
because you'll know that the ideas, Adam.
That's true, but like Elon Musk has this new gigafactory where he plans to produce his Tesla cars, and in the next few years he thinks it'll be completely automated. There won't be a human involved in the production line. Now, obviously there are going to be humans that are test driving it and probably fucking scrubbing it down or whatever, but or maybe not. Maybe they got a R2D2 with a sponge or whatever.
He'll do it himself.
That's pretty funny. But it's an incredible thing that we could all have electric powered cars with self-driving technology that are produced by a just massive assembly line of machines that humans aren't required to be a part of.
They can run over babies while we sleep.
But Jesus,
sorry.
But at the same time, you think about where the auto industry used to be based in Detroit, and those jobs went overseas as a result of automation, or not automation. They went over. The robots took them overseas. No, they went overseas as a result of trade deals and stuff like that. And again, I'm not opposed to free trade in general, but that's another example of an economic disruption that really benefited people that were experiencing the capital gains of such a transition. It didn't help the people at the factories. And it did make goods cheaper. There's no doubt about it. So it helped everyone in that way. But it's very hard to justify, to someone like, you don't have your job, but things are cheaper, right? You're happy.
This is progress, buddy. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's very hard to soothe someone by saying that their job was lost because the wise and noble march of progress, and they should just, get a different job, because a lot of time those jobs aren't as well paying, or they require a difference.
Well, and also if you've lost one job to automation, that's because that's where the industry you're skilled in is going.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, because a lot of people, I do think part of the response to automation is retraining people for different skills, and even that is kind of arrogant. That when someone loses their job and you're like, look, there's we don't need any long haul truckers anymore. I know you spent 15 or 20 years as a trucker, but now you need to learn how to write some code. And I think those programs should be available, but it's still like you're asking someone to change their lifestyle pretty dramatically.
You would hope our society would say, now go and do something you're passionate about. But that's not what we're.
Yeah, no, it's always go find some better way to sell your labor. Yeah.
To facilitate this new thing that took your job.
Yeah.
Work for the robot overlords that took your job.
But that's all. Actually, just a final note on that addendum we had. We actually had a new comment come in while we were recording this from Miss Heidi Rhodes in Feasterville, Pennsylvania. I feel awkward now because in hindsight, I'm noticing that a lot of the comments we picked out, yes, they do drive discussion, but they're all comments we disagree with.
Those are things that we felt like needed clarifying.
Well, I just think they're part of this discussion. I wanted to acknowledge them and give our thoughts on them. Right. But Heidi Rose says, if you allowed robots to do all the work, there will be no jobs anymore. To me, you're selling me on this. Like, I'm already like, sounds great. But
that sort of did an M. Night Shyamalan
at the end. But that's not how Heidi means it. Other than a person, she says, there'll be no jobs other than a person who has to fix it, unless you get some robot mechanic. What's the big deal? But anyway,
there's robots that can fix themselves already.
Maybe it's fucking T-1000. He's on the way. The faster you all push for electronic everything, the lazier the next generation will be. And there will be no need for even a government because a robot and computer will be able to do it for you. Think about that part.
God, we can't lose the government. Think about the government, Adam.
Our good friend Ford Fisher just got really happy about robots all of a sudden. No, that's what
sign it again.
We know we need robot politicians, congressmen and senators that will enact legislation exactly on what the majority of their constituency wants. No, that sounds insane. But no, I think that generally the no jobs being any more there being no jobs challenge is a happy problem because people can do something that they want to do rather than something they feel compelled to do. I think we've all had jobs that we don't want to do, but we do them because we got a bottom line.
Well, but the problem is that culturally, there's a thing where a lot of people grow up being taught to define themselves by what you do for a living. And if you're passionate about it, that's fine. But a lot of people do jobs just because they think you have to work to be a decent person.
Yeah,
which I think is a bit of a cultural fallacy that we have.
Yeah, like even when she says if you push for everything being electronic, the lazier the next generation will be. Like that to me gets in like what do we define as lazy? Like how I would probably push back on that.
Right,
that someone that I would never say that someone that works in a coal mine doesn't work as hard as someone who does code, or that because it's very different labor, right? But
I always find fault with this idea that human beings just can't wait to become lazy, worthless pieces of crap. That it's like as if people have no dignity and they have to be sort of, you have to dangle the carrot in front of them, or they'll just sit at home and eat potato chips all day.
Love me some potato chips. You know who didn't comment on this petition yet? Casey Rogers. I was expecting a Casey Rogers of Dallas, Texas to have commented on this petition.
New phone, who dis?
We also have in all caps from Elsie Pope, automation is well on its way. There is little you can do to protect human labor from automation. Thank you, and I look forward to your reign.
And I look forward to being assimilated by the Borg.
No, I agree with the sentiment that this is a tech trend. There's no sense in pushing back on it, and it's you shouldn't do that. I agree with that, Elsie.
Do you always read all caps as a robot voice?
No, I just thought it would be fun since we're talking about robots.
Okay.
But that's I think that will do it today for us. If you have, please do share this petition with your friends. Tell them to comment on the petition so we can continue this conversation. Please keep tweeting and supporting this, whatever you're doing, because hopefully we can elevate this kind of conversation to the national stage, and we can make Hill Dog Millionaire and Trumpster Fire comment on basic income and automation and post-scarcity and all these things that we think are neat, and really talk about the future rather than how much that hairpiece costs on that fucker's head. But anyway, you can catch us at futureleft.org. Be sure to sign up for our newsletter so you get all the updates about our podcasts, our blog posts, we got a whole newsletter full of interesting stories. And
I'm posting pictures of my trip to Venice Beach.
There you go. Casey's never been there. We'll never go there. We'll never take his shirt off. Nope. Never nude. Anyway,
I'm a humanitarian.
And what else we got? Follow us on Facebook, Twitter. You know all to do that stuff. I'm sure that's a thing.
But anyway, Patreon?
You can, if you want to give us money, go to Patreon. We should be more active, but frankly, no one's given us money, so I don't feel the need to be. But if as soon as we get a single person giving $1 to us on Patreon, that's our first goal. If we get $1 on Patreon, we're going to start being active on the Patreon.
We'll do a story about your life on a podcast.
Yeah. Oh, no, we won't do that. time for that, unless you're a robot. But anyway, we'll catch you guys next time. We're going to be doing another series about supporter comments, so keep it cool. Bye, everybody.
Bye.